assignment.
This
To
call is now being recorded.
few people have submitted their assignment. Anyhow, now today we'll talk about algorithms particular, and we know that uh, I mean that algorithms and data structures actually they are what's are they go in neck to neck. So in many of the algorithms we use data structures, and within data structures also the operations which we generally want to explain, we explain them in the form of algorithms only. So today our topic is about algorithms itself, and the discussion about algorithms we are going to extend it up to asymptotic analysis. And once if we finish discussing about asymptotic analysis, there we stop the concept of algorithms, and we'll come back again to the data structures, where we start our data structures and their related operations and all that, including code if possible, if time permits, including code also we'll discuss about the data structures. And then once if the data structures, all related important concepts of important data structures are over, then we come back again to the algorithms and we continue as usual. But introduction to the algorithms is very much important, because I told you that both data structures and algorithms they go neck to neck, and nevertheless to discuss about the operations related to the data structures, we discuss them in the form of algorithm itself. So analyzing that data structure related operations also in asymptotic way is very important, that we generally do as our regular practice. So can anybody define what is algorithm? Mm, I mean, even that EC people also might have what's of used to write the algorithms for their implementation of some small techniques and all in maybe what's that signal processing or other topics like as what is say networks and all. So can anybody define what is in an algorithm then?
Finite
Set
number
of
of sequences.
instructions. Yeah, of course, a finite number of instructions to set of instructions which are meant to solve a particular problem, or finite number of instructions meant for solving a particular problem. Okay, so of course that's what absolutely right the definition. And here the algorithm is a step-by-step procedure. Yeah, that we also we can say it is a step-by-step procedure which defines a set of instructions to be executed in certain order. Yes, I mean we expect that the instruction to be executed in certain order, so that order also we mention it within the algorithm, and we used to expect some desired output to, whether that output is correctly given or not. So that's what the overall about the algorithm, or in simple way to state about the algorithm is a step-by-step procedure to solve a particular problem, particular task. That is quite enough to define about what you mean by algorithm. And if we have an algorithm for a specific problem, then we can implement it in any programming language. So that means what's our algorithms are independent of programming language. So before we write the code related to a particular task, what we do, that particular task related algorithm we write first, and then we analyze that algorithm about the time and space complexity, and about even the correctness of that particular task related algorithm, whether the correct input we have passed or not, and whether we are getting the correct output, desired output or required output or not from the algorithm. All this we verified by writing the algorithm first. So thus algorithm is independent of any programming language. So first, for related to any task or any problem, we define the algorithm, we design the algorithm, and then later after checking or verifying the algorithm correctness and time and space complexity, if everything okay, then that same algorithm we implement it by taking one of the programming language which we are familiar. So that's what about the task of an algorithm. So before we write the code, we write the algorithm. And other important thing is designing that algorithm. Okay, is necessary because, as I told you, that directly if you try to implement that algorithm, maybe that code which you have implemented in certain language may take a lot of time, or maybe it may take a lot of space because of due to the instructions which we have implemented, or because of maybe improper usage of data structures. So maybe there are so many reasons are there where if you directly implement the task related thing into a program, so that program may take a lot of space or may take a lot of time to execute. So to overcome that one, okay, as I told you that we design first the algorithm and then we verify. After verification only we go for coding. So that's what that why to study the algorithm. The same thing we explained it here. Now, so here task is nothing but the problem. So what are the problem development steps here? The following steps we generally adopt in order to solve a particular problem, or to develop the code related to a particular problem. So first what we do, we identify the problem. So once if the problem is identified, then problem related things we define it. I mean, maybe the environment or where we use and all that we define it in problem definition. Then related to that, we decide about algorithm. So we go for the specifications of an algorithm. So what are the algorithm specifications means? What are the inputs to be given to the algorithm? What is that output we are expecting from an algorithm? And what is the suitable data structure to be used in order to implement that particular task related algorithm, and all that we specify it in a specification of algorithm step, and then we design that algorithm. So after that we read completely that algorithm in any of maybe purely in English like languages, or maybe in pseudo code form. We try to design that algorithm. Once if the algorithm is designed, then we are not going to directly implement it. Rather what we do, we checking the correctness of an algorithm. So what the correctness means, what whether the algorithm is giving correct desired output or not, that we can verify it. And then later we analyze the algorithm in terms of time and space complexities. How much time that algorithm is taking to execute, and how much space it is taking, or whether there's a memory space it is taking to execute. So all that we can analyze it, and then later we implement the algorithm by taking one of the programming languages. And that implemented code also we test it by passing different types of inputs, different sizes as well as types, with respect to type changing, with respect to size changing, all that we different things we pass to the program and we test it. And finally, if everything is okay, we document it. So this is what that any task if you are having in hand, to solve that particular task related code, we adopt these steps in the order which we define. Okay, so that's what about the problem development steps. Then, what are the characteristics of an algorithm? So, when we are talking about an algorithm, so what generally we adopt, I mean, what we should have to write correctly that algorithm. So, first of all, the algorithm must have unique name. We should not have any ambiguity in defining the same name to multiple algorithms. So that's why every algorithm which is particularly meant for solving a particular task, then obviously that algorithm should be given a unique name. So every algorithm should have unique name so that we can easily identify, and we can overcome the ambiguity from the ambiguity. Then algorithm should have an explicit defined set of inputs as well as outputs. So generally, when we talk about algorithm, every algorithm will take some set of inputs and we expect some output in a written form. That is, every algorithm should have input as well as outputs. Then, this is important. Each instruction in the algorithm is clear and unambiguous. So that means what? When you are writing the algorithm, the statements which you are adopting, they should not be ambiguous. What do you mean by ambiguous? Means suppose if I say that add 6 or 7 to x. I have given an example. You see that same example. Add 6 or 7 to x. Is there any meaning, sir? Add 6 or 7 to x means what? So we are in ambiguity state. So he's in confusion mode. Excuse me. So that's what about the instruction should be unambiguous. Similarly, if I say compute 9 by 0, we all know something by 0 is infinite. Okay, that means indeterminate. So we cannot determine the value of something by 0. So this type of statements or instructions should not be used to define the algorithm. Then algorithms should halt in a finite number of times. That means algorithms should not run for infinite. That means you should have some stopping point, starting as well as stopping point. Both should be there to an algorithm. This algorithm, of course, when we talk, these are the characteristics to be adopted to write a proper algorithm. Okay. Then comes, this is what the important thing called pseudocode. So generally, when we are talking about algorithm, as you know that it is meant for solving a particular problem. So that algorithm can be expressed purely in natural language. Like I just now taken the two instructions: add 6 to 7, 6 or 7 to x. Assume that it is a legal instruction. So they purely we have used English-like statement to express that. Or otherwise, mathematics, we can directly say x is equal to 6 or 7, or x is equal to x plus 6 or 7 something. So in mathematical way also we can express. So now it is better you adopt the concept called pseudocode. So what is pseudocode means? It is a mixture of natural language as well as high level language programming constructs. So it's a mixture. It means combination of both high level language as well as programming language constructs. And come to the programming language constructs, you can take any programming language related constructs which you are familiar. Commonly, we use C, C++, Java because these are all, basic languages, very important languages, of course. Many of students or many researchers they know about the structure and their what's our programming constructs which are used in C, C++, and Java. So the mixture of these two together, when we express an algorithm, that will become a pseudocode. So pseudocode is a mixture of both programming language instructions as well as what's the natural language instructions. So what are the programming language constructs generally we use in pseudocode means, now this is what why I have adopted means, now onwards whatever the algorithm that I'm going to define or whatever the algorithm that I'm explaining, I always write it in pseudocode form, and these are the symbols generally I use, all of you. That's you better remember. So the programming language constructs here which we are using to express the pseudocode are C only. So one thing is that expression. How we used to write the expressions means, the first one is we use left hand arrow symbol for assignment, amma, not equal symbol. Remember now onwards, when you are writing any instruction in algorithm, that left arrow indicates about assignment. That means some right side value we are assigning to a left side variable. So that's what about the assignment statement. For assignment purpose, we are not using equal symbol, rather we are using left hand arrow symbol. Second one, equal symbol, single equal symbol for equality relation. What do you mean by equality relation? Means comparison operator, whether the two quantities are equal or not, true or false. So it's a Boolean expression. So the equality relation can be expressed with the help of single equal. So this is what about expression related. Then method declaration means algorithm declaration. The algorithm generally we declare as algorithm, the keyword we use, followed by name of the algorithm. Then we use the parenthesis, as usual, the regular parenthesis which we use for expressing the function calls. So parenthesis, and within parenthesis, the parameters with separation of, with comma separation. So comma is a separator. So with the help of comma, we separate each parameter likewise. So this is the way that how we generally declare the algorithm. Then decision structure. That means what's our if condition. So the decision structure which we are going to use now onwards is if space condition space then space true action, and if in case you are having else case, then else space false action. So these are the three keywords we use: if, then, else. And between if and then we write the condition. Then after that we write the true action. And then if suppose we are interested in else case also, then we write else followed by else action related statements. So this is what the decision structure we use. So in the other way, we can say like this also, Amma. Mm. If say x less than y, then x is minimum, then so z is equal to x something, else z is equal to y. So like this we write. Okay. No need to any write the parenthesis in all, right? This is quite enough. And what about the multiple statements? In case we are having multiple statements, then what is say indentation we follow. X is less than y. Then suppose you're having two, three statements. Then z is equal to x and some p is equal to y something. So this indentation we follow. No need to use any parentheses. Else, similarly here also suppose we have something called q is equal to x and r is equal to y. So likewise, if you're having multiple statements, no need to use parentheses, just use indentation. That is quite enough. This is what one of the methods. Not a rule amma ikkada endi beda rule em kaadu. Generally, the algorithms which I am going to discuss will hold this type of pseudocode instructions. That's why I'm discussing. Then come to the loop here. Loop instructions are as follows. While loop is while condition do actions. So while and do are the two statements. So again, while condition do together, below that we write the set of actions. So again, if you're having multiple statements, for proper indentation we have to use. This is what that while do loop here. Then we have repeat until. So it's nothing but do while, nothing but like as do while here. Repeat actions until condition. So here condition is post condition. I mean, a verification of the condition we do after executing the body. So it is absolutely like as do while in C like languages. Then we have for loop here. For variable increment definition, do action. So that means variable initially we start from one particular value and then we continue it, and within that limit we ask to do or perform the action. This is what about the for loop. Don't worry, we are going to get this type of instructions in our algorithms which we are going to discuss. Then array indexing. Of course, array indexing generally we use it and same array symbol only, a of I. Suppose if a is an array, within array subscript operator we use I, where I indicates the ith element, ith cell in that array A. And index we assume that it starts from 0 to n minus 1 in case if n there are n elements. So the same C like index values we are taking. And that method return, always we use it with return value. So these are all the few instructions or pseudocode related instructions we generally use in our algorithms to explain. Then finally, why we need the analysis? Why we need anyhow when we write an algorithm, is that not enough? So why unnecessary we have to go for analysis? Means there are so many reasons are there. So one is that how to choose the better algorithms. Sometimes to solve a particular problem, there is no rule that only one algorithm exists. So for example, if you talk about searching, we have so many different types of searching algorithms are there. Similarly, sorting algorithms is not a one single sorting algorithm. We have so many plenty of sorting algorithms are there. So among these multiple algorithms, if you are interested or if you want to choose the best suitable algorithm for your application, then it is the algorithm only that we have to choose first. And then that algorithm, if you feel it is okay, then that same can be implemented into the code form. So that's what about how to choose a better algorithm for a particular problem, as one computational problem can solve by different algorithms. So for a particular problem, when you're running multiple algorithms, then better algorithm, which one, that can be easily selected through analysis. So if you feel that for say selection sort, insertion sort, bubble sort, all these sorting algorithms are what's a quadratic complexity. That means what's a big O of n square complexity oriented algorithms. Whereas if you talk about the quick sort or merge sort or even sometimes heap sort, all these algorithms are of n log n times. And there are linear time algorithms are also there. Okay, bucket sort is one of them, radix sort is one of them. These sorting algorithms, they take the linear time, that big O of n. So you feel wonder, you might know how to discuss about these two. So in our syllabus we'll discuss about these linear time sorting algorithms also, like as bucket sort is there. Okay, just now I expressed. So such an algorithms also will discuss, which are linear time sorting algorithms. So now among all these several different types of algorithms, which can one can easily select it if they know about or if they analyze the algorithm, which one is, I mean, what is the, with respect to time and space complexity. So thus the need of the analysis is to select the best algorithm among different algorithms of the same problem. Okay. Uh, then by considering an algorithm for a specific problem, we can begin to develop a pattern recognition so that similar type of problems can be solved by the help of this same algorithm. So that means the second advantage is, once if the algorithm is designed, it is proved and used by many people, that same algorithm may be useful for a different type of problem to solve. So that's what the second advantage. Maybe you may feel that, hey, this algorithm may be useful for my application. You may feel, if you are familiar about the algorithm which is already existing, so the same existing algorithm you can use it for your problem solving. So that's what the second advantage. So these are all the advantages of using analysis, or why we go for the analyzing of algorithms. And this will come to know only after analysis, which one is best for your problem. That can, you'll come to know only when you analyze that algorithm. Okay. And then this analysis, of course, we meant for time and space already we know. So generally this analysis can be made in four different ways. One is worst case analysis, second one is best case analysis, third one is average case analysis, and there is fourth one also called amortized analysis. So worst case is nothing but maximum number of steps taken on any instance of a size n, size a. Suppose if you take a particular instance size a, then to that particular size, what is the maximum time that the algorithm is going to take. Similarly, the best case is nothing but the minimum number of steps or time taken on any instance of size a. That's what the minimum number of instructions or minimum number of steps which are taken is called as best case. Average case is number of steps taken on any instance of size z, an average number. Generally we know that nothing but the average means what's our, in detail, of course, we will go further, but average is nothing but overall average number of instances of number of steps by total number of steps by a number of instructions and all that. Then amortized is nothing but a sequence of operations applied to a input size of a, okay, average over time. So maybe you may get confused with this one. That's why I have added the second definition. In a sequence of n operations, if some inputs are taking more time and others are taking less time, and one input is affecting the running time of other operations, then in that case we'll go for the amortized, okay, analysis. So the average case as well as amortized case, that I will explain in detail. Not only that too, the other about to also we have to discuss in detail, because most of them we people can get confused. What do you mean by what's that analysis, and what do you mean by that asymptotic analysis? What are the different asymptotic notations that we have, and which particular what's that asymptotic notation when we have to use? So these things, about these things, many people have many doubts. So let us clear them. And while discussing about the asymptotic analysis, we talk about in detail of these four types of analysis. Okay, number time being, just remember the definitions. Worst case is maximum number of steps, best case minimum number of steps, and average case is average number of steps. Coming to the average, the amortization is special case. With that, we will discuss it with the help of example. So now let's go for analysis. Okay, fine. We understand that what do you mean by an algorithm? What is the importance of an algorithm? And what are the characteristics of an algorithm and all that? We discuss it. Fine. Then how we can analyze them? Just now we discuss about there are different ways that one can analyze we algorithm in worst case or best case likewise. Then how we can analyze it? One way is we have to implement that algorithm. After implementing, then we have to check the time complexity and all. But if you do so, okay, that's not a good practice. Okay, so instead of that one, what we do, we have a method called random access mission to analyze a particular algorithm without performing the experiments on its running time. That means without implementing an algorithm in any of the programming languages, we adopt a method called random access mission. We take the following more analytical approach directly on the pseudocode, and this approach we directly apply it on pseudocode. So what is that random access machine method or model is? We define a set of high level primitive operations that are largely independent from the programming language used and can be identified also in the pseudocode. This particular primitive, identifying the primitive operations, identifying the number of primitive operations in a given particular algorithm which are independent of programming language. That is very important. Independent of programming language. Certain instruction in one programming language, if you implement it, it may take less time to execute. The same instruction in some other programming language may take more. Such an instruction we are not talking. We are talking about the primitive operations which are largely independent from programming language. That means that primitive operations which are not dependent on any program, which are not influenced due to change of programming language. Such a primitive operation count that we have to, and this method itself is called a random access model. Means counting the number of primitive operations in an algorithm itself is called as a random access machine model. So what are the primitive operations generally means? Assigning a value to a variable is a one step primitive operation. Similarly, calling a method, suppose to call a particular algorithm, recursive calls when we talk, the same algorithm we have to call by itself. So there, each call takes one primitive operation or considered as one primitive operation. Similarly, performing an arithmetic operation like as addition or subtraction, any arithmetic operation, each individual arithmetic operation itself is called as one primitive operation. Then comparison of two numbers. Comparison may be with the help of any logical operators or relational operators. When we are comparing, each operator itself is taken one primitive operation. Then indexing array index itself is one primitive operation. And finally, returning a method, the return statement is also considered as one primitive operation. So these are all what? To count how many number of primitive operations that an algorithm is taking. That number of primitive operations itself is called as, counting that number of primitive operations itself is called as a random access machine model. So that's what today we are going to discuss by taking an algorithm as an example. So this is what the algorithm which I have taken, counting the primitive operations on array max algorithm. That means if an array is taken of n elements, then in that array we have to calculate the maximum element within the array. So we know the simple logic it is actually. And while writing, this is what the structure which we are going to adopt now onwards, all of it. Algorithm, name of the algorithm is array max, taking two parameters a comma n, and there we have to start algorithm. Before we start, we have to define about what is input and what is output. The input is what? An array A of size n integers, where n is should have at least one. N should be at least one. Okay, so A is an array of size n, and output is what? What the algorithm is going to give as an output means the algorithm is going to give the maximum element within that array A. This is what the defining of input output, which is commonly we write as a practice while writing the algorithm. Then actual code starts here. We know the logic here. Initially, the first element itself, we assume that it is a maximum element. And then from first index to n minus 1 number of indexes, for each iteration, we have to compare the current max value with A of I. And if A of I is more than correct, that means if the condition is true, then the current max we change to A of I. So likewise, we continue until the last element, until we reach to the last element. And once if loop is over, we come out of the loop and we return the current max element. So whatever the current max is holding, that itself is the maximum element. So let us go for tracing this. We all know that it's a very simple algorithm. Say, I have taken an array, say here. A is my array having the elements 5, 7, 9, 12. Intentionally, I have taken the last element as my maximum element. Now what initially I'm assuming is that this is my current max, Cm, the fifth element, that is A of 0. Zeroth element itself is my maximum element. I'm assuming initially. Then from first index onwards, I'll continue. This is 1, 2, 3. So what I will do for I is equal to 1 to what is that? 3. I is minus 1, 4 minus 1 up to 3. So when what we do in this one, we are comparing that if the current max is less than A of I, if current max is less than A of I, then what we do, we change the current max to A of I. So let us execute this code. If I initially I is 1, so condition is true because I is less than 3, and here Cm is 5 and A of 1 is 7. Is 5 is less than 7? Yeah, condition is true. So what we do, we change Cm to 7. That means now the current max is not this one, sir. This is what current max. Then I will
Sir,
become.
loop iterates. Sir, loop
Yeah,
iterates
it
from
iterates,
0
sir.
to 3. 0 to 3. No, sir. 1
No,
to
Amma, already zeroth element, I'm assuming that it is my current max. The first index is already assigned as my max element. Here is it. Current max is A of 0. So I already examined that zeroth index element. That zeroth index element, that is nothing but the first element. I'm assuming that it is my maximum element. Okay, Nama? So obviously you are holding that zeroth element. Now comparison should be start from where? Is that
first
going to, are
element.
you going to compare the first element? So that's why zeroth element already is there, which is current max. Cm is zeroth element, that is 5. Now if I కంటే వేరేదైనా పెద్దదిందా, so obviously for comparison purpose I have to start my loop from 1 and you have to continue up to 3. So that's what I have written that for loop like this here. I 1 to 3. So initially when it is 1, then I'm comparing current max is 5 with A of 1. What is A of 1? A of
7. 7.
So I'm changing my current max from 5 to 7 because condition is true. Then again we go for incrementing internally. So I will become 2 there. So when I will become 2, again what we do, we verify is current max. What is current max? We have current max entama 7
9.
because it's changed. Is
7.
7 less
Yes.
than 9? Yes, again true. Condition is true. Ganka. Again the current max will change from 7 to 9. Okay. Then I will get incremented to 3. So current max is 9. Is 9 is less than 12? Yes, again condition is true. So we again change current max from 9 to 12. By that time, okay, already we completed our execution of the loop. So loop is finished. We come out of the loop. After coming out of the loop, whatever the current max is there, that current max we return. So return current max. So what is the current max we have here? 12. You know that within the array,
12.
of course, the elements are 12. Okay, Nama? This is a very simple algorithm. Very simple algorithm. Now we are interested in what actually means. We are interested in analyzing this algorithm. Okay, let us start analyzing this. So our steps are what? Current max initially set to A of 0. There's what? One instruction. And there is a loop here which continues up to n minus 1 times. And within the loop, we have certain instructions. One is if condition, the other one is again some assignment statement. And after coming out of the loop, we have return statement. So these are all the instructions that we have. Now, using a random access model, let us analyze this algorithm. All of you be careful because the same method almost we are going to adopt for every algorithm. Amma. Okay, Amma? Okay. So the same RAM model we are going to apply for asymptotic analysis also. All of you, where for every algorithm, whatever the number of primitive operations are there, which are independent of any programming language, we have to identify such a primitive operations and we have to count them. So finally, within the algorithm, whatever the number of primitive operations that we are going to get, itself is called the complexity of that particular algorithm. Okay, so let us go for that one. So first instruction is what, sir? Anyone, amma, in your algorithm, what the first instruction?
Assignment.
Assignment. Current max we are assigning with a of 0. Okay, nama? Okay, sorry, if I go back here, I already explained that what are the primitive operations. Generally, how to identify the primitive operations. So the common primitive operations I already explained. Assignment is one of the primitive operations. Calling a method itself is one of the primitive operations. Performing any single arithmetic operation itself is considered as primitive operation. Comparison, one single comparison itself is primitive operation. Indexing array is also a primitive operation. Finally, returning any single value is also considered as a primitive operation. So as you said that, let us go for this one. The first statement is current max, which we are assigning with a of 0. All of you, listen carefully. If you want, we'll practice more by taking more number of examples. So I'm taking right now today this single example. Tell me, Hama, in this instruction, how many primitive operations are involved? I told you that arrow indicates about assignment, Hama. Don't get confused, because now this is what my method of explaining about the algorithms. I never use parentheses. I use indentation and certain programming language constructs. So this arrow symbol is assignment. So in this instruction, can anybody tell me how many primitive operations are involved?
Assignment and indexing. Assignment and indexing.
First index. Excellent, Amma. So that means how many are there? 2, kada? Agree?
Yes, sir.
Yes or no? Two primitive operations. First, indexing zargutundamma. Array lo 0th element to fetch cheyadam. Indexing to 0th element. And I told you already, this array indexing is also one primitive index operation. See, indexing into an array. Last but one. Chudandi. So therefore, initially here indexing will take place. So we fetch a of 0th element, and that a of 0th element we are assigning to current max, which is a variable. So assignment is also one of the primitive. So total how many primitive operations? 2 primitive operations, 2 units. What are the means? Indexing into an array and assigning a value to a variable, and is executed only once. Therefore, 2 units. So this total instruction, this single instruction executes only once in the beginning itself. So therefore, total number of primitive operations are 2. Agree? Agree, Amma, all of you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let's go for the next one. Next one. Okay. Now immediately we reach to loop here. So my idea is, suppose in case the way how I'm going to explain right now, if you are not understanding, then do one thing, Amma. You assume this one. The same for loop. You assume like this. I is equal to 1 while I less than or equal to n minus 1, begin some instructions, then I is equal to I plus 1. Okay, Nama? All of you. This you assume in your mind. Whenever for loop is there, which I am using in my algorithms, that same for loop you can change like this. Okay, I is equal to 1 is initialization. Condition is I less than or equal to n minus 1. ఇది మన ఈ algorithm కోసం వాడుతుంది. Then within the body, obviously I has to be incremented. So I is equal to I plus 1. I'm incrementing I value. So how many steps are there అక్కడ అందులో? Counting steps are how many in this structure?
Assignment, comparing two numbers.
Okay, condition checking. Condition checking, very good. Comparison of two numbers. And then
Performing arithmetic operations.
Very good. Assignment come arithmetic operation. So all of you remember these are the three instructions which are there within single for loop. And in case wherever if I am using for loop and if you are getting confused, better you assume that into a or convert that into a while loop. Okay. Now I'm coming back again. So already we counted about the first one. Now I'm interested in for loop. In this one, at the beginning of the loop, I is equal to 1 is initialized. Am I right? అందుకొరకు while loop చూడమన్నానమ్మా. I told you to just observe the while loop. I is equal to 1 చేశారా లేదా while
Yes,
loop లో
sir.
first? In the beginning only we initialize. So how many primitive operations are involved in that amma?
1.
One only. So very good. So there are one primitive operation. So ఇప్పటి వరకు how many primitive operations are over till now?
1 only.
No, previously మనం ఆల్రెడీ కౌంట్ చేసాం కదా
Three.
ఇక్కడ.
3.
ఇక్కడ 2 ఉన్నాయి చూడండి. Here we have 2. 2 plus this one is 1. So total 3. Good. Then comes before entering the body of the for loop, condition I less than n is verified. Am I right? అవునా కదా? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And this action corresponds to one operation only. ఈ comparison అనేది కూడా equal to how many primitive operations this comparison is equal to?
1.
One only. Be careful amma, be careful. Since this comparison is performed m times, కానీ ఈ comparison అనేది ఎన్నిసార్లు జరుగుతుంది? Total number of times?
N minus 1 times.
n minus 1 times. ఇంకోసారి జరిగినప్పుడు ఫాల్స్ అవుతుందమ్మా. ఓకే, ఐ అగ్రీ. బహుశా మీరు కన్ఫ్యూజ్ అవుతున్నారేమో. ఐ రోట్ లైక్ దిస్, ఐ ఈజ్ లెస్ దాన్ ఆర్ ఈక్వల్ టు n minus 1. కానీ నీకు వైల్ లూప్ నుంచి ఎప్పుడు బయటకు వస్తావు? వెన్ యూ విల్ కమ్ అవుట్ ఆఫ్ దిస్ వైల్ లూప్?
When it is false.
When I will become n, when it will false. And how you will come to know whether it is true or false? After comparison only, na? Ana kada?
Yes.
So
sir.
total number of comparisons are how many?
N.
N comparisons. Up to n minus 1 number of comparisons, condition is true. Ana? Up to n minus 1 number of comparisons, condition is true. So we have n minus 1 number of comparisons. But at the nth comparison, when I will become n, at the nth comparison, the condition is false. But still we need comparison, and one comparison is equal to one primitive. So therefore, n minus 1 comparisons of true comparisons and one false comparison. Total number of comparisons, how many? N comparisons total. Okay. Okay, all of you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so thus I'm coming back here. So since the comparison n1 is performed n times, thus it contributes to n units. Which one contributes to n units? The n I less than n అనేది ఎన్నిసార్లు ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవుతుంది? అమ్మా కన్ఫ్యూజ్ కాకండి. I less than n అనే సింగిల్ కంపారిజన్ ఈక్వల్ టు వన్ ప్రిమిటివ్ ఓన్లీ. అవునా? పైన చెప్పాను ఆల్రెడీ. I less than n అని కంపేర్ చేయడానికి ఒక ప్రిమిటివ్ ఆపరేషన్ సరిపోతుంది. అవునా? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
కానీ ఆ కంపారిజన్స్ ఎన్ని అవుతున్నాయి? హౌ మెనీ we are repeating?
N times.
We are repeating n times. So the total number of primitive operations are how many? N.
One. No, N.
అలాంటి వన్లు ఎన్ని రిపీట్ అవుతున్నాయి? హౌ మెనీ ఆర్ దే? బికాస్ that loop will execute how many times?
N times.
N times. At the nth time it will become false. So anyhow, total number of executions or conditional executions are n times. So therefore the total number of primitive operations are n. ఇప్పుడు చెప్పండి, ఫర్ లూప్ లో ఇప్పటి వరకు ఎన్ని అయినాయి? టోటల్ నంబర్ ఆఫ్ ప్రిమిటివ్ ఆపరేషన్స్ ఫర్ ద ఫర్ లూప్. I is equal to 1, initialization is only one primitive operation. Comparisons are n, and each comparison is one primitive, means n comparisons will take n primitive operations. So total number of primitive till now are n plus
N plus 1.
N
1.
plus 1.
And previous two how many? 2 are na?
N plus
So
3.
n till now n plus 3. Now once if the comparison takes place, it will get into the body. Am I right? Whenever condition is true, it will get into the body. Oh na?
Yes, sir.
And the body of the for loop executes how many times?
N minus
N
1
minus
times.
1 times.
Remember, not 10 times, not 10 times. Body of the loop executes n minus times because n minus 1 times condition is true. Nth time condition is false. So body of the loop always we know that will execute n minus 1 times. Okay, 1 to n minus 1. At each iteration, AI is compared with current max. అవునా కదా? ఏం చేస్తున్నాం? What is the body of the loop here? We have within the algorithm, the body of the loop is if current max is less than A of I. We are comparing there, all of you. Okay, here we are comparing. So in this comparison, can anybody tell me how many primitive operations are involved?
2, sir. Indexing and comparison.
Comparing. Good. 2. And if condition this is true, if this if condition is true, it will get into the body, and in the body we have something called current max is assigned with A of I. How many primitive operations are there here in this?
2, sir. Indexing and assignment.
Very good.
Assignment.
Right, Amma. So these two you better remember. The same I am explaining here. Body of the loop, n times it executes, and in each iteration, A of I is compared with the current max, which leads to 2 primitive operations, and A of current max is possibly assigned to, okay, not current max, Amma, misprint. A of I is possibly assigned to current max. This should not be A of current max. If it is A of I is possibly assigned to current max. That's what 2 primitive. Just now we discussed. Okay. Then at the counter I is incremented, that leads to 2 primitive. Why? We know that I is equal to I plus 1. Why loop in Japan? Okay. So for loop related incrementation statement is still there, and where that incrementation is nothing but 2 primitive operations, addition and assignment. I plus 1 అనేది యాడ్ చేయాలి, రిజల్టెంట్ ను మళ్ళీ I కి అసైన్ చేయాలి. Are you getting my point? How many primitive operations are there total? 2. ఇప్పుడు చెప్పండి, బాడీ లోపట విదిన్ ద బాడీ ఆఫ్ ఫర్ లూప్, ఆల్ ఆఫ్ యూ కాన్సన్ట్రేట్, విదిన్ ద బాడీ ఆఫ్ ద ఫర్ లూప్, హౌ మెనీ టోటల్ ప్రిమిటివ్ ఆపరేషన్స్ ఆర్ దేర్?
6.
Very good. These 6 primitive operations, how many times is going to repeat?
N minus 1 times.
Already I mentioned it. Body of the loop is going to be repeated n minus 1 times. అవునా కదా? So 6 times of n minus 1. Can you say? Each time body is going to be executed 6 times, and we have the body which is overall going to be executed n minus 5 times, means for n minus 1 number of times, the total number of primitive operations are 6 into n minus 1. Agree? Amma, ఒక్కసారి 6 times amma. When the body is going to be executed, one time the body related number of primitive operations are 6. So now tell me how many times the body is going to be executed, which is already mentioned in the beginning that n minus 1 number of times the body is going to be executed. So therefore the total number of executions are how many then? 6 into n minus 1. Agree?
Yes,
or not?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Now
Yes, sir.
there is a twist here. The twist is ఇది. This is what the current max which is assigned with A of I will take place only, this particular one will take place only if the condition is true. Am I right?
Yes.
And
Yes,
if the
sir.
condition is true for n minus 1 times, then it is 6 times of n minus 1. Avuna?
Yes, sir.
Assume that condition is
Yes,
false,
sir.
Amma. Assume that every time the condition is false. Assume that every time the condition called current max is less than A of I, assume that this is false. And this happens when the very first element itself is maximum element. అరేలో ఫస్ట్ ఎలిమెంట్ మీరు మాక్సిమం తీసేసుకున్నారు అనుకోండి, మిగతా అన్ని ఎలిమెంట్స్ చిన్న ఉన్నందుకు ఈ కరెంట్ మ్యాక్స్ ఇస్ లెస్ దాన్ ఏ ఆఫ్ అనే కండిషన్ ప్రతిసారి ఫాల్సే ఉంటుంది. అవునా కదా?
Yes, sir.
Assume that is what happening. That in the algorithm, the condition is false every time. Then tell me the number of primitive operations of the body, loop body.
2 times, sir. Return is 1 time and We are returning and we
To
are taking the initial value.
return is not comes under the body of the for loop, amma. Return statement is outside the body. Okay, within the body, if the condition is every time assume that it is false, then how many primitive operations? Total. Yes, amma. 2 times or 4 times up?
4 times, sir.
4 times, not 2 times, amma. 4 times అంటే ఏంది అది మర్చిపోతున్నారు మీరు. I is equal to I plus 1 incrementation.
Comparison and incrementing and assigning back the
Yes,
item.
yes, amma. Okay, na? So that means what? That's what the twisting point here. If every time the condition is true, then total number of primitive operations are 6. And such a 6 primitive operations are going to be repeated n minus 1 times. Therefore, the total number of primitive operations of the total body is 6 into n minus 1. But if the condition is false every time, then instead of 6, only 4 times the body is going to be executed. As a result, the total number of primitive operations will become 4 into n minus 1. So either 4 or 6 primitive operations are going to be considered. Minimum 4, maximum 6. One time when you are calculate the number of primitive operations related to the body, for one time, okay, the minimum number of possibilities are 6 primitive operations, maximum primitive operations are, sorry, minimum 4 and maximum 6 primitive operations will take place as a part of the body. And this body is going to be repeated n minus 1 times. Therefore, either you have 4 into n minus 1 number of primitive operations, or you may have 6 times of n minus 1 number of primitive operations. Okay, Nama? That's what about the body, how we have calculated. And finally, return current max is one of the statements. Will take one primitive operation. Okay? Now tell me all together how many primitive operations are there? At least 2 plus 1 plus n plus 4 times of n minus 1 plus 1. So when I'm adding all this, I'm getting 5n. And at most, this is what at least, kam se kam, takkol takkuva. At most, ekkol takkuva 2 plus 1 plus n plus 6 into n minus 1 times plus 1. This is what? 7n minus 2 leads to. So minimum 5n times the overall algorithm will take number of primitive operations. Maximum 7n minus 2 number of primitive operations it will take to execute the algorithm. Anyone is having doubt in this, please clear. And this minimum number of primitive operations which the algorithm is going to take is called as best case. And 7n minus 2 which we are talking is called as worst case. At most 7n minus 2 number of primitive operations that it is going to take, and at least 5n number of primitive operations that an algorithm is going to take to execute the body. So this is what the way that using the RAM model one can calculate the number of primitive operations. And then each primitive operation, if we assume that will take 1 unit time, then the time complexity, the best case is 5n and the worst case is 7n minus 2. దీంట్లో ఏమైనా డౌట్ ఉంటే చెప్పండి. ఎనీవన్ అలా ఎస్ అమ్మా, చిత్ర, స్వాతి.
It's clear, sir.
Yeah, things are clear na? You are
Clear,
only
sir.
stating that
Clear, sir.
క్లియర్. సో ఫైన్. సో మీరు అందరు క్లియర్ అని అంటున్నారు. ఇక ఇక్కడ నుంచే అసలు మొదలవుతుందమ్మా. ఎందుకంటే always we talk about this primitive operation count only, and based on that only generally we go for asymptotic analysis. So don't worry, we'll practice it more on this. So hope that you understand about how we are calculating the number of primitive operations, okay, using RAM model. And tomorrow we'll continue the same. Tomorrow means next class we'll continue the same, where we'll take recursive algorithm. This is what non-recursive algorithm. So how we can calculate the number of primitive operations for a recursive algorithm, that we'll discuss it in the next class. And then after that, in the next class itself, we are going to talk about asymptotic analysis. If we able to finish within that same day, then we'll come back again to the data structures, where we'll start one data structure. That's what stacks, queues from linear data structures will start, and we go for all the data structures which are important for interview point of view as well as other competitive exam point of view. Okay, Nama, all of you. Okay, so this was the way
Yes,
that
sir.
today's task I'm concluding here only. So we'll continue in the next class. Thank you, Amma, all of you. Chandrika, madam, are you there?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so
So
much.
I'm concluding,
Students,
Amma.
yes, sir. Students, please don't leave. Principal sir is joining in some time, in some 2-3 minutes. Please don't leave the class. Thank you.